So on both fronts here with us, national cyber and national security expert Morgan Wright and retired Brigadier General John Teichert back with us once again this evening. General, hello. Morgan, hello to you as well. I'm going to start with you on the ongoing story there in Minnesota, Morgan, as the New York Times is saying tonight U.S. sees Iran is likely behind this cyber attack. What say you?
You know, there was an alert that was put out 4 days before this describing that they believed Iran was going to launch an attack like this. 4 days later, an attack is launched. So, you know, there's at least moderate confidence that the IRGC is behind it, using one of their proxy groups called Cyber Avengers. But what they're targeting is something that has been targeted multiple times. And a lot of these entities, these water plants that run it, these are called PLCs, programmable logic controllers. These are small computers. They are exposed to the internet, but that's what controls the flow of chemicals and the flow of water. So they're targeting one of the most vulnerable things in these plants. Now, I know Minnesota says, hey, nothing has happened, but hey, look, hope is not a strategy. We've really got to harden these things up.
When you look at companies hacked by Iran, there's some pretty big names out there, but this is not a company, Morgan. You're talking about a water system. And there's roughly 150,000 water systems all across America. How do you protect this? You talk about the warnings, and there are the warnings, but my gosh, that's a big number.
You know, there's an old saying that says we can defend anything, we just can't defend everything, and the general knows this too. You want to bring a nation to its knees, you go after two things: power and water. Water is a Maslow's hierarchy kind of attack. You may not have an impact, but it's psychological, it's emotional, and it gets down to one of the core things people need. If you remember when the ransomware gang DarkSide attacked Colonial Pipeline, shut down all the oil on the East Coast, we didn't lose a single drop of oil, but everybody reacted as though we had lost oil. So it's the influencing and it's the creation of distress, you know, obviously in the citizens, hoping, and Iran hopes that we will have enough of it and we'll tell the, you know, President Trump, hey, stop, no more, we're tired of this.
Here was General Dan Kane a week ago, or earlier this month, when he was testifying up on Capitol Hill. He basically said that there was, that this war goes from the water up into the air, points in between, and including cyber. How big is it right now, Morgan?
There's 5 domains of war: sea, air, land, space, cyberspace. This is big because this is Iran can now punch above their weight in a domain where we have control of the skies, we have control of the seas, control of the land. But cyberspace is one of the areas where they can punch at or above their weight at a near peer level with us.
General, you heard there Jessica Cartalia reporting tonight that maybe there could be this 2-week operation here in the coming days. What does the administration need to do from here on out, as we're now approaching month 5?
Like, all due respect to Admiral Cooper, I'm concerned that he's talking about doing more of what we've been doing for the last 5 months. The reason that we're 5 months into this, our stockpiles of weapons are dwindling, and we haven't achieved our objectives, is that we have been focused on the number of strikes instead of the quality of strikes. And we need to do a good job taking a step back and assessing each strike. How does it hit at the heart of the regime? How does it stop their sources of power, what they value most? It's not about more, it's about the quality so that we can achieve our objectives.
You saw that video there from Jessica Cartalia of what Central Command put out as it relates to the ongoing blockade, or I guess the next chapter of the blockade. You don't believe that it can work. Why?
Blake, I believe that our blockade on them is ironclad and is shutting off $6 billion a month of economic activity.
Okay.
But the challenge of us physically forcing the Strait open is that we saw in the Black Sea, Ukraine, with very low-level assets, shred Russia's Black Sea fleet with a few drones. And just being in that contested territory, in the tight space of the Strait of Hormuz, is risky for us, it's risky for ship captains and oil tankers, and it's very difficult to force open a small waterway.
Trump's approval rating on the Iran war, it keeps dropping, and Americans keep having less of an appetite for this. What would you say to the folks who say, enough, this has to stop?
Well, I would say, Mr. President, please go with your inclination to strike at those types of targets that are regime centers of gravity or internal security hubs or energy or power plants or transportation or logistics, that he has this inclination that this could end quickly, but he's never followed through. And I think especially with Karg Island, you could strangle the regime tonight by taking out Karg Island. They would have no resources to do the malign activity that they talk about. And don't force the American people to endure months and months of this. Let's finish the job by attacking those targets he's inclined to attack.
General Teichert, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Morgan Wright, as well. Thank you. As you know, they got a man. They're investigating that in Minnesota.